I'm just recording a repeat of a talk I did at a conference called World of Love 2 here in London. And as the conference was called World of Love, I want to talk about one thing I hate and then a load of things that I really love. So the one thing I really hate is being told that if I wanted a story, I would read a book. And the argument is deployed as the megaton in internet forum arguments about whether or not it's worthwhile telling stories in games. And I hate this argument for a bunch of reasons. And one of the reasons I hate this argument is that growing up, the games I loved, the games that inspired me, that stuck with me, were often the games that told interesting stories, that were full of interesting characters and great worlds that I'd never seen before. And while StarCraft may not be the Citizen Kane of video gaming, and it may not hold a candle to Shakespeare, the way it told a story of an intergalactic war between three different species that all had their own motivations, and the way the game's story twisted, even during missions, it really stayed with me and affected me, and it made the game stand out at a time when the PC RTS market seemed to be just full of the same bland, generic things. And I also hate this argument because in the way I don't just think films are just about cinematography, and the way I don't think comics are just about their drawings and their visuals, and the way I don't think books are just about arranging words into a poetical arrangement, I don't think games are just about gameplay. It's an important element, and yes, it's the thing that makes them unique as a medium, but that shouldn't be their only defining factor. So as you might guess, I love storytelling. That's my bias, that's why I play games, that's why I make games. And despite the fact that I love storytelling, I love that if I create this chart with gameplay at one end and story at the other, and if I try to imagine that games that fit across this, depending on how much they focus on the gameplay, whether or not they focus on the story, I love that I can fill this chart all the way along with games that I think are brilliant and amazing. And so, at one end we've got Drop 7 on the iPhone. I love that game. I play it all the time on the tube, and I don't think it needs a story. And right at the other end, I've got Air Pressure by Bento Smile. It's basically a visual novel. It just tells a story. The gameplay is very light, but I think that's amazing as well, and I don't think that needed more gameplay elements. So I love that, indie developers and developers alike, they get to try different ideas and push themselves all across this spectrum. Everyone has different tastes in terms of what they want to play, and your taste will change depending on, time or what you're feeling like, what mood you're in. So it's great that everyone can try all these different amounts or different ways of telling stories in games. I wanted to give you a few examples of games that told stories I really love. I love Eternally Us. It's a point-and-click adventure game that takes the player on a journey through the various stages of grief and loss. I love Vespers. It's an interactive fiction game about a monk trapped in a monastery with the plague is approaching and a murder's happened, and he's having to deal with the compounding stress of everything going on around him while at the same time facing his own crisis of faith. I love Digital, a love story. It's a tragic love story and conspiracy drama told through the medium of 80s BBS software. I love Mirror Stage. It's a puzzle game that uses simple geometric shapes, but also tells a whole anthology of stories dealing with all sorts of issues such as domestic violence. I love Looming. It's a game about exploring this vast landscape where once there was these different civilizations, and you pick up artifacts and discover what happened to these people and why they moved on. And I love being an indie developer. It means I get to play with all sorts of ideas and try storytelling in lots of different ways. I don't have any answers. I don't have the best way of telling stories. I haven't figured that out for myself yet. But, and I'm not even telling you should put stories on your games. I just love the fact that I get to try lots of different things out and experiment with it, and that so many other people do the same. So I hate being told if I wanted a story, I'd read a book, because it implies it's a waste of time to try. It implies that the whole process is defeated before we start. But yet, whenever I hear that, I just think how many games I've loved because of their stories, and how many games I've loved making because of their stories. And I love that so many people keep trying, in spite of such criticism.